Hey everyone, this is Brett Favre, Green Bay Packers Super Bowl champion. And you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packers content. Go Packers.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Join alongside Tim in Green Bay. We got Jacob on the Wisconsin-Minnesota border here to talk Packers as we are, I don't know, one more sleep away, I guess, 2 more sleeps away from free agency kicking off here on Monday.
Get ready to go.
It'll be really exciting. As you can see, the weirdest coach in the NFL is fired up about it for sure. Gents, how was our day today, man? How was the weather? Was it warming up for you guys like it was down here?
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Beautiful today. Yeah.
Not Tennessee warm yet, but, we're getting there.
And you see my face is glowing red. It wasn't because I got a lot of sun. I burned a brush pile that was probably about 25 foot long, and I got a little too close to the heat. There's a couple of times I was like, I think I might have lost an eyebrow there. Yeah, it got pretty warm, but
you got the Tupac LaFleur special eyebrow lineup today.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of the eyebrow wax in there. We just singe those things off and we keep it moving. You know what I mean? So
I love it.
Hopefully everybody had a great day. We're live on here on YouTube. We're live on Rumble, live on X. Appreciate everybody making us a part of your evening. If you would hit that like button on the way in. I know the chat's already on fire. I want to open it up, guys. You got anything you want to hit on before we just kind of walk through the news of the day? And we got a few messages from some folks here too. A question for the show. A topic that got brought up that I think is very interesting. I think most Packer fans probably won't like it, but I want to kind of get the chat's take on it. But you guys got anything you want to lead off with here, man?
I don't have anything. I swear that today I was going to look up some good topics, some great info, and then I played Madden all day. And I didn't do anything. I didn't get anything done. I got dishes I was supposed to do. My dog's really hungry. I did nothing but play Madden.
You were dropping dimes with J Love, wasn't you? I know what you were doing.
Man, dude, I got to get you to give me that updated offseason stuff, Clay. I got to get the new draft class. Guys, I'm so bad at gaming, but I love it in spurts. Right now I'm in love with it. As soon as I start losing, I'm going to feed your dog.
Tim, I feel like Jacob's probably got training wheels on his controller over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk. It's been a while since I've gamed too, so I've got nothing. I'm not throwing any shade at all.
Prince said, feed your dog, Jacob.
I've fed my dog. It's a joke. God.
All right, there you go.
Oh, we're going to give him some.
Anonymous human jumped in and said, hey, y'all want to go cow tipping after this? There you go. Obviously. All right, let's kind of get into the conversation, I guess, of the day, you could say. And shout out to Jordan Taylor, one of our Patreon members, said Darnold on a 3-year deal to the Seahawks. I think they're projecting here, as you guys know. We'll talk about that here in a second. And they said A-Rod on a 1-year to the Vikings. Oh. Packers-Vikings playoff game at Lambeau in 2025. Rodgers finishes his career with the Packers win in the playoffs. We knock him off and send him off into the sunset is what it sounds like there. So this is something that's starting to catch a little bit of steam. I've tried not to mention it yet because I still find myself wondering, okay, is this a real possibility? And it sure seems like it may be. Now, I'm just going to kind of give you the rundown here from earlier today on X. Ian Rappaport, with Geno Smith headed to the Raiders, the fallout is dramatic. The Seahawks turn their attention to Sam Darnold, which means the Vikings' time with Darnold is likely over as they turn their eyes to Daniel Jones, though. So they've still got Daniel Jones on their roster. Daniel Jones has options with Minnesota and the Colts being among them. Aaron Rodgers lurks. I love that word lurks there. Considering the Giants with the Vikings as a dark horse. Justin Fields has a strong market as the Steelers work to re-sign him, but the Jets and others have interest talking about in Justin Fields as well there. So obviously the big thing that sticks out to me there is the whole Aaron Rodgers thing right now. It sounds like Aaron Rodgers and the Giants were pretty deep into conversation, right? Now, if we removed our Packer fandom here, right, and we were running the Vikings organization, would you be interested in bringing Aaron Rodgers in on a 1 or a 2 year deal and let J.J. McCarthy learn from him, sit behind him the same way that Jordan Love did? How do you guys feel about that? And chat, let us know how you feel about this. Do you want it to happen? Do you not want it to happen? I'm going to give my take here in a second, but let's go around the horn with it. I don't care who goes first. Neither of you probably want to, but you can think.
Go ahead, Green Power Ranger. That's on you.
Do I want it to happen? Absolutely not. Do I think it could happen? Well, I mean, we've seen it happen before. Unfortunately, this exact trajectory. I don't feel like Rodgers has the same kind of vendetta that Brett had when he made that decision. I don't think that the blood is anywhere as boiled as it was with Brett. That being said, if Aaron wants to play football and that's the place where people are going to pay him to play football, I don't see him not going to Minnesota simply just because he doesn't want to ruffle feathers, if that makes sense. And we've talked about if the money's right, shoot, I'll do anything. Most people will do anything. I mean, the Green Power Ranger is not above bribery, guys. We know that. I find it hard to believe, like Prince was saying right here, talking about how there's supposedly talks that they like Danny Dimes. I mean, if that's the case, more power to you. I would much rather have that be my choose your own adventure story. If they go with Danny Dimes rather than Aaron Rodgers, yeah, I'll take that. That'd be great. I don't see Rodgers going that route, but I could believe it if it did happen. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I think anything's possible. We've seen crazy things that we never thought would happen with players going to teams. So to say that, like, oh, there's no chance this happens, that's kind of naive because anything's possible in the modern NFL. That being said, I kind of lean with you. I don't see Aaron having the Vikings at the top of his list or anything. And I also don't know if he's willing to give them any kind of sweetheart deals. I think the Vikings would have to pay. I don't think it's going to be a super team friendly kind of scenario. That being said, I don't want to see Aaron in our division. Feel how you want to feel about Aaron, but he's going to make a team better that he's on. Obviously, other than the Jets, apparently. Mm-hmm. But I don't fear him coming to the North, but that's not something I want to see. I will say this though. I do think Aaron probably remembers the fact that, the Vikings celebrated Anthony Barr breaking his collarbone as like one of their franchise's all-time great plays. I mean, these are some of the most disgusting fans like I've ever seen, second only to Detroit fans probably. And I think Aaron probably hasn't forgotten about that. So I know what you mean about like the bad blood or whatever. Aaron strikes me as a guy that probably didn't forget about his playing days in Green Bay and against Minnesota. So, but hey, money talks, BS runs the marathon, right? So if the Vikings want to overpay and bring Aaron in there on a 1 year kind of extend the time for JJ McCarthy to develop scenario, fine. But I think there's a chance that maybe they stick with Daniel Jones just because of the price and that Daniel Jones would provide the same thing, basically a 1 year stopgap to get JJ McCarthy's legs under him, literally, and get him playing. So I don't think the Vikings are going to do anything to jeopardize their future starting quarterback that they drafted last year in the first round.
Could you imagine a world where we watch an opening snap or some sort of down in where Aaron Rodgers goes under center under wearing the purple with Aaron Jones behind him? Can you just like that? That would break my little heart, man. It would just break me to pieces.
No, and Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers are really, really close, obviously.
Yep.
They've both been very vocal about that. I know there's still people that like to paint Aaron Rodgers as this bad teammate, and it's just simply not true. Of course, there was a handful of people that did not like him, right? And we'll get to that super chat in just a second. We're going to finish this topic, and we'll move on to that for sure. Thank you, Mike. We see it there, buddy. We're going to hit it here in just a second. I think it's a fascinating question. So let's go through the chat real quick and what everybody's got commented here. J. Cole, whoop his ass if that happens. I love A-Rod, but if he goes to that Vikings, it's belt to ass, no doubt about it. And that's how I feel about it. Like it is funny that some of the fans that wanted Aaron gone, Aaron's the problem, Aaron's washed. Aaron won't do what the coaches say, all this stuff. Now all of a sudden they're a little concerned that Aaron may go to the Vikings. It's like, well, you didn't want him here. Now, I'm not saying the team didn't want him here. I'm saying those specific fans didn't want him here. Now all of a sudden we're concerned he might go to the Vikings. I'm not scared of Aaron Rodgers at this point. I'm not. 2014 Aaron Rodgers, yeah, I'd be like, heck no, keep him out of the division. I think our Packers team could beat Aaron Rodgers, no problem. But if, like Holmes said here, why would 12 want to replicate Favre's career? Think about what the Vikings have. Think about what their record was last year. And think about how Sam Darnold laid the egg in the playoffs. I mean, that really, they were talking about after that game how many millions of dollars it cost him. Look at their wide receiver core. Why would Aaron not want to go there? Justin Jefferson, right? And you got who's the other young one? I always forget his name. He was my top receiver on the board.
Jordan Addison.
Jordan Addison. Think out of USC, if I remember correctly. Another solid player there. They're always good at tight end. KOC, one of the did he win who won coach of the year? Do we remember who won coach of the year? I'm trying to think. I don't even remember. If it ain't LaFleur, I don't care. You know what I mean? At that point in the year. But anyway, I think let me put it this way. Giants or Vikings, who would he rather play for? I imagine it would be the Vikings, not the Giants. I mean, what do the Giants have to offer? Giants kind of feel like the Jets. He's going to go over there and win 5 or 6 games, and then what do we do?
An easy move, I guess. That would be the one thing they got going, right?
Yeah,
Aaron doesn't have to switch houses or, facilities.
Yeah. Joyce Martha in the chat says, I listened to 2 Viking podcasts, and there is no thought of Aaron Rodgers. Well, my timeline suggests otherwise, Joyce. But with them not mentioning on the local Vikings podcast there, that's I guess that's good news for us, right? That they're not trying to stoke that fire in it all. Prince says, I didn't know McCarthy required another knee surgery. Rough way to start a career.
Yep.
I want to say it wasn't as serious as the first one. It was more of kind of a procedural thing. I could be wrong, Prince, but yeah, that is a tough way to kind of start.
I thought it was a follow-up that was planned from the initial surgery is what I read, but
still, and like he says, it is another knee surgery. Obviously it's some kind of procedure, but yeah, it's and again, I want the Vikings to fall flat on their face, but when you see a young player, their career get off to that kind of start with injuries, it sucks, it really does. Aaron Rodgers here in the chat for the panel. Actually, let's hold this. We'll do it next there, Aaron. Let's get to the super chat from Mike Hebring. Any thoughts on wide receiver Josh Palmer in free agency? Average is 15. What's he saying? 15
yards a catch.
15 yards per catch. Okay, cool. I'm going to go pull up his – what do you want to look at, Jacob? You want to pull up his PFF and I'll maybe go to his fair market value or something? Or would you like me to pull up PFF if you don't mind? Okay, cool. You do that and I'll go to the spot. Cool, go ahead. Josh Palmer, right? And let's go spot track and see what kind of market value, if any, he has here. We do have a market value chart. Man, if their calculated market value is correct here, Mike, they've got Josh Palmer, the Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver, set at $4.3 million. His comps are Jarvis Landry, Robert Woods, Marquise Hollywood Brown, and Zay Jones. Now, listen, those aren't barn burners by no stretch of the imagination, but at $4 million, you're talking about if he becomes one of your top 3 receivers, that's money well spent. Obviously, what do you got on him, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, man, I've went up and down with Josh Palmer myself. If you are ever in free agency or fantasy football, he's one of those guys that he's a free agent constantly, and he's one of those guys where randomly you could pick him up and he could win you your whole week. He could win you a ton of money, and then he'll fall off literally from the NFL for the next 8 weeks, and you don't see or hear from him again. Good size, good speed burst. As far as PFF is concerned, he's basically lived in the mid 60s his whole career. It was 64, 67, 67, 67. The guy's got pretty good size and speed, 6'2", 210, 25 years old. Again, for some reason, I figured that Josh Palmer was 30, but he's not. He's quite young. So as far as being the age, the size, what he could possibly do, I don't hate that idea, to be completely honest. I really don't hate it. I don't think you talk about a guy that hasn't had a great quarterback carousel in his career. It seems like he was always kind of a plug and play filler type dude. Maybe he's not a starter, but I think that if he went to the right team, he could be a third string rotational type guy. I really do think he could be a good.
I'll keep Malik Heath. I'm good.
I agree. I don't want to take him over anybody we have, but as far as I'm more speaking for a different team. I think he could be a legit third string wide receiver on most teams, but I don't think that he makes, like Chris is saying, I don't think he makes our wide receiver room better.
I agree. The one thing I do like about him is availability, though. I mean, he missed a handful of games in 2023, but I mean, if you just look at the last since 2021, I mean, he's always available. So that's a guy that isn't going to be missing a lot due to injury unless something crazy happens. So that's good. But I agree with you. I don't think he's like a surefire guy that's going to just tilt this field for our offense. And then it also depends, what is he looking at, projected market contractually. You get that guy on a sweetheart deal, maybe you think about bringing him in for some depth, but I don't think he jumps off the paper to me.
And he is not he is not a run blocking wide receiver whatsoever. He is consistently in the 40s and 50s. I think he had one game last year where he graded above a 70 in run blocking.
Well, then he's not going to fit in very well in Green Bay.
No block, no rock.
So Tim.
Yeah, so in terms of PFF grades, right? He's a 62.6 this year. Is that right, Jacob? Am I thinking right?
67 this last year. 62 was his first year, 64 his second year, and then 67's his last 2 years.
Okay, got it. So Jaden Reed, 71.7. Now, he's obviously your F receiver. Romeo Dobbs, 69.7. He's your boundary X. Christian Watson's going to be hurt most of the year, so we'll just cross him off the list. Dontavion Wicks, who will predominantly play the Z, and he'll fill in at the X when Rome comes off the field. He's a 65.1. Bo Melton, 63.2. He can play F. He can also play some Z. And then Malik Heath was a 62.9. So for $4 million per, he all of a sudden becomes, I believe, the highest paid receiver out of that lineup that would be playing. I believe Romeo Dobbs, he would definitely be the highest paid at $4 million per. I would say no, Mike, but I understand what you're saying too. At size 6'2", someone who could probably play boundary X and stretch the field a little bit with that average yards per reception of whatever it was, 15. I understand where you're going there, but for me, I wouldn't want to take Romeo Dobbs off the field to put him in. And you've always got to think in terms of deployment, right? You got to think of when we put this player in the lineup, someone else is coming off the field, right? And are you truly upgrading when that player does come off the field? Like you guys pointed out with the run blocking, if you decide, hey, let's put him out at Z, okay, let's put him in at Z and take Dontavion Wicks off the field. Dontavion Wicks is a 71.2 run blocker.
Yeah.
Like, he had drops, don't get me wrong. But Dontavion Wicks blocked his ass off this last year. Bo Melton did too, 69.5, pretty solid. So what did you say Josh Palmer's blocking grade was again, Jacob? Do you remember what it was there?
Yeah, I mean, his best blocking grade, let's put it that way, in his career was a 51-1. So 2021, he had a 46.5, 2022, a 39.5, 2023, 51-1. So, yes, that was his best year. And then last year, he had a 50 flat.
Got it. So, yeah, I would say no, Mike, for me. I think I would rather take a swing in the draft and get one of these players like a Jaden Higgins or, if for some reason one of these top wide receivers fall to you in the right spot, or if Gutey trades back and Emeka Egbuka or Luther Burden's sitting there somehow, some way, along with maybe Matthew Golden, who's a little more versatile. Matthew Golden too. He's 5'11", I believe. He's either 5'10" or 5'11", but he can stretch the field vertically. As he obviously. What was Matthew Golden? Didn't he run a 4 feet?
He's listed as 6 feet on PFF.
Yeah,
I was going to say.
I want to say he measured. I could be wrong. I want to say he measured in at the combine at 5'11". I'll double check that. Which, why does it really matter, right, Tim? When you're talking about an inch of height, it's not that big of a deal for sure. But matter of fact, I've got RAS's website here. I need to reach out to him and ask if he's okay with us sharing that website on our show, because he may be, hey, he's put in the work. He might know I want the traffic. I want people to go there. So yeah, his hand size is 9.5 inches. It's showing him at 5'11" on here, Tim. So 5'11", 191. And that puts his
so it wouldn't be the first time something is different on PFF, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. PFF, man, they for them to be a data driven company, they do whiff on a lot of data. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
that doesn't really matter.
That is so weird. How it's simple stuff too. It's like, what's his height and weight? When was he born? I don't know. It's a mystery. Draft
Again, Mike,
Buzz.
thank you so much for the super chat there. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Draft Buzz says that he ran a 4.29. Prince says he ran a 4.39. Draft Buzz has him as a 4.29. I don't remember that being the case, so maybe Draft Buzz has a typo there. 4.39 sounds more realistic from
No,
what
it's
I
a
remember.
It's a 4.29 is what he
Is
ran.
it really?
Yeah.
I
think he was the fastest wide receiver at the combine, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure. So one of the fastest, if not the fastest. Yeah, his RAS is still incomplete because there's not enough data there. But as it sits right now, his composite size grade, which is his height and his weight, the 5'11", 191, is graded out poor. But his composite speed grade, 4.29, is a 9.96 grade. His 20-yard split's a 2.51. That's 9.77. And then his 10-yard split is a 1.50, which is a 9.73. And all that means, guys, when you hear 10-yard, 20-yard, 40-yard, they run the 40-yard dash. His time for the first 10 yards, that 10-yard split, that's what that is. Hit the first 20 yards that time. That's called the 20-yard split. And then, of course, the 40-yard dash is self-explanatory there. That's all that means there. So, again, I would rather potentially hit on one of those guys and put Jaden Reed out wide and let him, play Z like he did in college and stretch the field a little bit, and then have like a Matthew Golden or someone like that you can move around and be very versatile, than take a swing on Josh Palmer for sure. So Aaron Rodgers said, for the panel, here's a question, guys. With free agent legal tampering starting Monday, isn't that exciting just hearing saying that? That's awesome. Which free agent do you think is going to be a Packer? Where do you think Goot goes with? That's a great question. I really don't know how to answer it, to be honest with you. You try to read the tea leaves. Okay, what has he been interested in with the draft? That would suggest he sees those as blatant, needs, I guess you could say. Toward the top of the draft, he met with edge defender, tight end, defensive tackle, corner, linebacker, defensive tackle, edge defender, wide receiver, defensive tackle, cornerback, edge defender. Kind of feels like defensive tackle, corner, or edge is on the forefront of his mind right now, especially with us not knowing how the whole Jair thing's going to go. If I had to guess which direction Gutey would go in free agency right off the bat, oh, man, my guess would probably be corner. I think he would maybe address corner in free agency. Simply because we keep running into that problem with our mock drafts where we kind of get thin at corner early in the draft. And if Ja is not going to be here, or Gutey in the back of his mind is thinking Ja might not be here, I think that will probably be the safest bet there, the safest gamble. But if you're asking me, Aaron, what I would do, I would love to see them go day one, throw the book, go get Khalil Mack, and go get Chris Godwin and get it over with, just like we did Xavier McKinney, Josh Jacobs, and then move on to the draft. That's what I'd like to see. But what do you guys think here? Go around the horn with that question.
I'd do the same thing, but I'd add Drew Dahlman.
You throw Drew Dahlman in too.
Yeah, give him 7 to 8, whatever it is that he needs, even if it's up to 10. I really would. Solidify every single little weakness that we had last year, which I agree, cornerback is tough to fill in this draft with any kind of certainty. And then, solidify that line. If we got Godwin and Dahlman and Khalil Mack, I would.
Oh, man.
I'd be buzzing for days. I couldn't sleep.
Yeah. Tim, what do you think, man? What do you think he's going to do? And then you can go the route like we did and say maybe what you hope he does.
What do I think he's going to do? He ain't going to sign nobody.
I can see it.
Okay. What would I like to see is, what you described, or some variation of also combined with what Jacob described. Going with the corner, I would like to I'd like Charvarius Ward. That'd probably be the first corner that I'd like to see sign. If we're talking receiver, other than Devontae, of course, we all want Tay back. We know
the other one, yeah.
We know it's pretty.
Wait a minute, Tim. You're trying to tell me that you'd take Devontae? Oh.
That was the best short that we created the other day. I don't know if you've seen it or not, Tim, but you cut Jacob off mid-sentence. You trying to tell me that you would take so over Devontae?
Another receiver that I don't think we've really talked about a lot is out of Cleveland.
Elijah Moore?
Elijah Moore. Yeah,
Ooh.
he's still a see Prince in the chat, right on the money. Only 24, has college and pro experience as a returner. Bad situation with both the Jets and the Browns. Yeah, holy cow, poor guy. He might click really well with a new team. I agree wholeheartedly. And I also think, I don't know. I'm looking at over the cap here. I can't really get too much detail, but I'm wondering what he would want contractually to make something happen. But he'd be a receiver on my short list. If we're not talking about like our favorites, right? Like a Tay or a Chris Godwin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if we go to wide receivers here, since we're kind of talking about it, is that really all they've got listed? What is going on? What the hell is going on out here?
Real quick, if you want to know Elijah Moore's grades, this is the only thing that kind of puts up a red flag for me. He came in the league in 2021, busted on the scene with a 71.2, very decent grade there. And then since then, he's been a 57.5, 58.9, 58.5. Now, obviously that, like Tim just said, I think is more of a product of where he was, and not even just the fact that he was on those bad teams. He was on those bad teams while those teams were going through terrible turnaround, rebuilding.
What's Elijah Moore's block grade?
It's not good, Tim. It's his best year was a 43.5. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
All right.
So here is, according to Spot Track, the top wide receiver free agents. Okay, now that previous average annual value, that's not the market value. That's just showing what they previously made, right? Devontae Adams 1, Stephon Diggs 2. So this is sorted by what the money they've made already in their career, essentially. Keenan Allen 3, Amari Cooper 4, Chris Godwin 5, Brandon Cooks 6. Who were we just talking about? Who was the player that we just mentioned? Elijah Moore, is that
Elijah
right?
Moore. Yep.
Yeah, let's see. It looks like we got a market value here. Let's see what we got with Elijah Moore. Hopefully it don't lock up on us here. $4.5 million is what they're saying. I'm not a big Elijah Moore fan personally. I'm not, but I do understand what Prince is saying there. There's some value there with kick return. Is that what he was saying? Yeah, experience at kick and punt returns. So, yeah, I can understand someone being interested in him for sure. Let's see here. What did Coach Lynn say just now? Any interest in Michael Thomas or Michael Gallup? That's right. Michael Gallup's coming out of retirement, right? Yeah. Michael Thomas, is he a free agent? Michael Thomas?
I don't quite know what's going on with Michael Thomas. That guy has not been healthy for 5 years, it feels like. But he consistently is still somehow in the league. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I don't see him on here, so I can't give any market value on him. I want to say no, seeing that I don't know much about him. You know what I mean, Coach? But, yeah, Tim, as you said, Devontae Adams, it comes down to Devontae Adams and Chris Godwin for me. I'd be okay with either. Devontae is going to be kind of that 1 or 2 year patch, right?
Yep.
And probably cheaper overall than Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin, however, could probably give you 3 to 4 years, but cost a little bit more money. So that gets a little tough for me. If we look at Chris Godwin's market value, let's see if it's changed at all. It's still sitting at $22.5 million. This is what I mean by overpaying for Gray, right? Like that, you are overpaying there. But remember, DK Metcalf's seeking $30 million per.
Yeah,
that's why I was saying the whole time, you don't have to give up a draft pick, and you're saving $7.5 million on average per for what I think is a much better receiver in Chris Godwin. That's just me personally.
Yeah.
He can do a lot more too. Like he can play X, he can play Z, he can go in the slot and, make the tough catches across the middle. We've seen him do it his entire career.
Also, not to cut you off there, Clayton, but when you look at Godwin's, I mean, starting in 2017, 81.9, 84, 90.7, 76, which was almost his worst year. 81.3, 75.7 was his worst year, quote unquote. 77.5 this last year, 86.3. But the best part, I mean, they're not great, but the pass run blocking grades, 71, 65, 71, 62, 74, 59, 53, 62. So better in the beginning of his career, but it shows that he's a willing and capable blocker if he wants to.
Absolutely. All right, let's see here. Let's fall back. Is there any other receivers you want to take a peek at as far as market value here? Anybody catch your?
What about Lockett?
Tyler Lockett?
No, come on.
Don't shame me again.
Don't you do this, Tim? Tyler Lockett's market value. Look, 7.7 million. This is that Ross the Boss right here, Tim. That's that deal, dude. That thing, you know what I mean? That where you could save a little money and get dessert at the next dinner. You know what I mean? Like
It's like
7.7
You're not
million.
going to save much money when you're replacing it again next year.
like
What is
Michael Scott walking into Burlington Coat Factory.
Live like a king for basically
Like a
$300.
king, basically.
What is Tyler Lockett's grades, Jacob? Do you have them handy or no? I can pull them
find
up.
it.
He's going to be 34 this year, guys.
Hey, what's wrong with
Jacob said, "Damn, Tim, what do you think? What's wrong with 34?" Again, Devontae Adams going to be 112, right? I mean,
dang, I got his grades if you want them. I'm kind of surprised.
I don't expect them to be good. I could be completely wrong. I'm kind of playing along here with the shtick, but I'm with Tim. When I hear Tyler Lockett, I roll my eyes.
All right.
What do you got?
Okay. Let's go. 2015, 75.9. 2016, 68.9. 2017, 67.3. 2018, 82.3. 2019, 81.9. 2020, 76.5. 2021, 81 flat. 2022, 77.9. 2023, 78.1. This last year took a dip to 65.2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that could be the wall, right? It could be the wall. Yeah. He's been a good receiver for a long time. There's no two ways about that. For me, it would be a no, though. I don't think that helps us get where we want to be, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
I could be wrong, but
Have we talked about Scotty Miller?
Scoot? Is Scoot still alive?
Scotty Miller.
Where's Scotty Miller at on this list, Tim? Where's he
He's
at?
on that list.
Yeah,
The
where
Steelers,
is-
did they re-sign him?
I have no idea. And this may not be completely up to date. You know, what do you got on Scotty? Do you got any?
I just know
anything-
he's cheap and he's 28. You know, so,
Tim's looking at the age. He's going, listen, I need
I'm looking at the
somebody
age
to
and I'm
go.
looking at the salary here.
You sound like me trying to find a date. I know
Yeah.
she's cheap and she's young, man.
I'm just still, getting over the loss of our hope in getting Tutu Atwell as a little patch because I believe
Got $10 million a year.
Sign him. Yeah, they overpaid, right?
Hey, I know people laughed at me, but Tutu, I remember us getting ready for the Rams game and watching the tape and going through and game planning how do we stop their offense, and he popped. It was like, damn, they're using this dude all over the place. I think he's a solid player. I honestly think that $10 million is money well spent for them, and he knows the system. He plays a lot of effort. He's like their Jaden Reed essentially. Now, obviously, he hasn't performed quite like Jaden Reed, but I think he's a valuable asset to the Rams for sure.
Doc in the chat is begging us to check out Darnell Mooney, which is a little bit intriguing as well because we remember him with the Bears, kind of a gadget, kind of smaller guy. But then he went to Atlanta, and I feel like they didn't use him the way that they could have, but he still had a pretty productive career. And I shouldn't say career, but a productive outing with Mr. Kirk.
So you pull his PFF up, Jacob. I'm going to try to find him on Spot Track. He's not popping up here. Darnell.
Okay. I got his PFF grades. I mean, this isn't as bad as I thought either.
To be honest, every time I hear Darnell Mooney, I think of Paul Mooney off of.
Oh yeah,
the best. All right, go ahead, Jacob. I'm sorry.
His PFF grades starting in 2020: 68.7, 74.7, 69.2, 55.2. This last year, 74 flat in Atlanta with almost 1,000 snaps. I mean, not bad.
Now they're showing him under contract with Atlanta right now through 2026. Was it announced that he was getting cut or something? Maybe it hasn't formally happened yet, you think? Or if anyone wants to clear that up in the chat. His cap hit in 2025 on the books right now is 14.4 with a dead cap of 19 million. So I don't see why that would make sense for them to move on from him unless they thought they could get decent draft comp or draft capital in return. That makes sense. So
did Khalil Shakir re-sign with Buffalo? Did they extend him? That was another one I was thinking of because he's a little younger.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
25 or something. Maybe someone can confirm in the chat.
Yeah. All right. So we good on wide receiver? Anybody else, fellas? Anybody else at all? I think we're
Grant DeBose. Bring him back.
Oh, okay.
Bring him back. He's 24 years old. It's not his fault he got ran over by a bus 3 times in his first couple of years.
That is true.
That's a good point, man. That's a good point. I really liked Grant DeBose when he was here too. I think he plays the game the right way.
Talk about a dude you can get for what, like $800K or something. I mean,
He's still in Miami.
I think he's exclusive rights free agent. So Miami's got first rights to him, I believe. But I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Man,
Since we're talking receiver here, let's just show Jaden Reed some love here. Again, man, I feel like I'm the only podcaster who's actually defending Jaden Reed this year. This clip right here, too, if you want to go watch it on Twitter, we can't play it here, but that's that catch in triple coverage you made against the Rams. So in 2024, the Green Bay Packers wide receiver Jaden Reed finished 6th in yards per reception, 13th in catch rate at 73.3%. You know, the drops were the issue. He was still 13th in catch rate, 20th in receiving EPA at plus 37.7, and 20th in YAC. So he's a legit. When I say number one receiver, what I mean is he's a top 32 receiver in the league, right? He's worthy of being a number one receiver. But the way that I consider a number one receiver when I hear that is someone who truly tilts the field. You know, teams are bracket covering them. They're really
Double
they have to
team,
build their whole game plan. They're a Tuesday player. They got to build their game plan around stopping said player. So I don't want y'all to take that the wrong way, but Jaden Reed's going to be just fine, man. I'm so glad he's a Packer, and I'm already, if I'm Gutey, I'm already eyeing that up in year 3 to go. Let's get some structure in place to extend this dude because
he was the best guy around.
So
the downfall of Reed should be studied.
oh God, there you go again. There you go again. And what's crazy too is like when you look at the receivers last year, we're sitting here talking about, man, Christian Watson's out. We got to get a receiver. Right? And we're trying to fill that void that Christian's leaving. But you got to break it down a little bit further and go, okay, what did we do well? What did we not do not so well, right? I love this chart right here, okay? And if you'll notice, running vertically on the left side is zone coverage, okay? On the bottom from left to right is man coverage. And what this is showing is team receiving against man/zone coverage, okay? So you're wanting to be in this upper right quadrant, and that's where the Packers are. But if you'll notice, they were the second best team. Their receivers, it doesn't say a wide receiver, so I'm assuming this means Tucker Kraft and the tight ends along with the running backs. But against zone coverage, only the Baltimore Ravens were better at yards per route ran against zone coverage last year than the Packers. They almost hit the 2-yard mark, okay, yards per route ran. But when it comes against man coverage, you can see they're right at the median line. They're right in the middle of the pack, maybe even right below the middle of the pack, you know, maybe at the 16 or 17 spot, somewhere around there. So what that shows you is, what do we need to get better at? We need to get better at man coverage, right? Teams caught on, and they found out, here's how we stop the Packers. Let's play man coverage. Now, if you stick to the run, you can run teams out of man coverage, obviously. But we know LaFleur is an aggressive coach. He loves his passing offense, and they ended up finishing really, really well. What was it we talked about? I want to say it was like 4th or 5th in yards per pass attempt is where they finished on the year. So when you take that into consideration, what do we need to get better at? It's against man coverage. What do you need? What kind of receiver do you need? To me, Chris Godwin checks all those boxes. He can win a one-on-one matchup in man coverage, right? He can make contested catches even though he's only 6 foot tall. I say only 6 foot tall. It's pretty good size for a receiver, you know.
Somebody want to check on the Bears over there in the bottom left quadrant?
Right.
You know how they're doing.
and what's crazy is it's yards per route run, Tim, right? That means here's the amount of yards they average every route that their team ran on a passing play, right? Now, why is that so low? Because their quarterback was an idiot holding the ball for 4.5 seconds, then taking a sack and looking around at the offensive line like, man, I don't have a shot here, right? That's one of the things that came into play. But, you know, what's crazy, Tim, is they invested a lot in that wide receiver core, right? They went and got Rome Odunze in the draft really high. Wasn't he a top 10 pick?
Man. Remember we heard all of that? Look out for the Bears. They're taking the North and never giving it back. Blah, 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 blah.
Rome Odunze, and then they also traded for DJ Moore. I think both of those receivers are solid receivers. So if you
Allen,
if you've got 2, maybe 3 good receivers, okay, and your team is still this bad at yards per route ran, what's the problem? It's the offensive line. You can blame the offensive line if you want. I know this. They just traded for 2 solid offensive linemen this offseason. Yep. If this happens again next year, I do not want to hear all of the Caleb Williams fanboys talking about, well, this offensive line sucks. He led the league in sacks taken, holding the ball more than 4.5 seconds. So I'm just saying. And remember the Greg Cosell clip we played, right? One thing that typically transfers over from college to the pros, and we've seen it time and time again, draft class after draft class. If a college quarterback takes a lot of sacks, he typically takes a lot of sacks in the NFL too. It's not going to get easier reading defenses. There's going to be way more disguising. There's going to be way more shell. Therefore, you got to check it down, play within rhythm of the offense, get the ball out. That's something that Jordan struggled with last year. We talked about it, right, Tim? Like you've got to get the ball out to the flat quicker. You can't wait and then get your guy killed in the flat. You've got to get it out on time. I think that's what Caleb Williams really struggled with. So anyway, what do you guys think about this chart? Do you feel like this is pretty reflective of what we've seen in the 2024 season? Do you think it's off base a little bit? How do y'all feel about it?
I think it's pretty accurate, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've seen our receivers are just really great about picking apart zones. And I'm a little surprised that they're not a little bit better against man coverage, just because we've got some really precision type route runners that are really good at what they do. And you look at Wicks and Reed and even Watson in certain situations. So if we could improve that a little bit, I mean, we're in some pretty rare air up there. You know what I mean? And if we could take that step, if Jordan, I think it's a big deal, you know, I'm not AFAM or nothing like that, but he does need to take a step. We're not sitting here blinding our eyes and saying that Jordan Love was the best quarterback of all time last year. That's not what any of us on this panel, on this podcast has ever said. We've said that he has the potential when he is firing at all cylinders, he could be the best quarterback in this league. So there's a lot.
I think what you saw was him trying to get back from, you know, a season that started with
3 injuries. Right.
Yeah, significant injury. And I mean, some guys take a little while to bounce back and get your rhythm. And I think we saw down the stretch, you know, as we yet again did something the Bears don't do, which is made the playoffs. Jordan started to kind of find that rhythm a little bit. We talked about the time getting that ball out, especially on the swing pass or the check down. A lot of times Jordan would kind of pat the ball, ignore that, and then look for the kill shot, the effort read down there somewhere shot. And we saw him start to get away from that and start to get that ball out quick and being more decisive. And I think that helps us, you know, as a whole. It's certainly going to help our receivers. You know, you got a guy running open, hit him in stride and go. Sometimes you don't have to get to that second or third read if the first one's there. Just hammer it and let's move the sticks, you know. So I think Jordan's coming around. It's just, you know, going to take time. Year 3 as a starter is almost upon us, and we got to just see how this goes.
Yeah. Ron Sample says AI agrees with Clayton that Reed can be a top outside receiver, dangerous deep in the slot, good route runner. That dagger concept, especially when you're in a 2x2 set, him in the slot, he's running the go. You know, he'll run the go out of the slot or out of the F, however you want to, you know, call it. And then, of course, we were working Dobby across the middle on that dig in 2022 a lot. Last year, you got a lot more Wicks doing that. Right. And that's where obviously the drops and everything kind of came into play, but still solid. I think it was a solid season for our passing game. And obviously the running game, I think they proved to play pretty well. We just need a few pieces, man. You got to shore up the trenches a little bit. So when you face a bully like the Eagles, what's crazy is like we played the Eagles better than the Chiefs did. We played the Eagles better than a lot of teams did in the playoffs, you know, down the stretch there. I mean, week 1, we hung right with them, right? And then, of course, in the playoffs, it wasn't like they got absolutely boat raced, and we fumbled the opening kickoff and gave them a short touchdown, too.
Playoffs?
Say this, man. Halfley held his own against the Eagles, in my opinion. I thought he played pretty damn good. Jordan ended up, turning the ball over 3 times in that game, so you can't blame Half there for sure. Let's see what else. Oh, here we go. So what's the answer at wide receiver, right? That's the question. Matter of fact, we'll pick that up on the other side. For those of you listening on the pod, that's going to do it for hour 1. We will see you on the other side for hour 2 with this continued exciting, glamorous wide receiver talk.